Hello and welcome to the Fierce Fatty podcast. I am your host, Victoria Wellesby, and this is episode 22, and we're going to be talking about how you've been brainwashed into hating your body and how to deprogram yourself. Let's do it.
Perfect.
You're listening to the Fierce Fatty podcast. I'm Victoria Wellesby, TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and fat activist. I have transformed my life from hating my body with desperately low self-esteem to being a courageous and confident fierce fatty who loves every inch of this jelly. Society teaches us living in a fat body is bad, but what if we spent less time, money, and energy on the pursuit of thinness and instead focused on the things that actually matter, like if pineapple on pizza should be outlawed, or if the mullet was the greatest haircut of the 20th century. So, how do you stop negative beliefs about your fat body controlling your life? It's the Fierce Fatty podcast. Let's begin. Okay, so welcome. OMG, how are you feeling? Oh Lord, sweet baby Jesus. Coronavirus. COVID-19. It's all going down, isn't it? It's March the 18th today when I'm recording this podcast. And this morning I reached out to a few of my Vancouverite fatties because what we're going to do to support everyone with their intuitive eating, their fat positivity, their body loving and reduce anxiety is next week. So the week beginning, I think the 22nd, is it? Yeah, 23rd. Monday the 23rd, sometime in that week. I haven't picked the time yet. I am going to do a Facebook Live where we're going to be talking about all of this stuff. The fact that people are feeling really food insecure. The fact that people are being triggered into feeling like they need to be exercising and feeling shit about their bodies and feeling just super anxiety, which is 1,000,000,000% normal. So I am going to do a free training for that. I haven't decided when yet, so I can't tell you. But anyway, by the time you listen to this podcast, it probably would have happened. But I'm going to put a link below for you to either sign up for it or to watch the replay. I'm going to have some special guests with me, so it's not just going to be me. And then if you don't catch it, I'm probably going to turn it into a podcast episode, so you can just check out maybe episode 23 or 24. It will probably be a podcast episode. So if you want to learn more about how to cope with the sky falling down, which is what it feels like right now, then look out for that. So I'm in rural Ireland and I work from home. So there's not really that much of a change to my daily routine because I work from home and I'll be going around the local areas in regards to like walking Dougal, my dog, going to the local beaches. There's lots of beaches around here and there's hardly any people. So I'm lucky in that respect. It's pretty much business as usual, but I myself personally last Monday or Tuesday when it was all kicking off, I was just like, I can't cope with this. Just turn off everything. Don't mention anything to me about about coronavirus. I don't want to read anything. I don't want to see anything. I just not interested. I am definitely not going to be talking about it. But now a week later, my brain has changed a bit and I feel a bit more relaxed about it, which is good. But if you're not, then That's fine. It's understandable. But just FYI, you can rely upon me, your fierce fatty, to continue with a weekly podcast, and maybe the Corona special Facebook Live one is going to be quicker than a week. Who knows? Reminder, go and leave a review for the podcast. Would you please? Thank you. If you're listening, you can just leave 5-star review really simply. Just click the star thing. And if you want to write something, even if it's just, she is sexy or whatever, obviously that's all you need to write, then just write a little review if you could. That would make my day. And as a thank you, send me a screenshot of your review before you submit it, because it goes into a black hole of the internet, never to be seen again for a while. And send me a screenshot and I will send you an audio and digital copy of my best-selling book, Fierce Fatty. And something that I didn't know, which is so annoying, and it's the same for Amazon, because people leave reviews for my book on Amazon, is that every iTunes account, and I'm not sure for Spotify or Stitcher, but every iTunes account is regional specific. Did you know this? And so I was like, I'm getting all these reviews, like people emailing me their reviews, like loads of them, but then it wasn't showing up on actual iTunes. And I was like, what the heck? Like, where are these going? Why is it taking months for these things to appear? And it's because I was looking on the Canadian iTunes, which is the country that my iTunes is on. And these reviews are from all over the world. So the US and the UK and all over. So now I've got this technology, I can't remember what it's called, podcast review. I think it's called podcast review. I pay like $5 for it. And once a week, it just sends me the reviews that I've got through. And so I can see them anyway. So yeah, hey for technology. But I wish that iTunes would just lump all reviews together, right? Wouldn't that be helpful? Wouldn't it? And with Amazon too, like every market is different of different reviews that you get. So anyway, let's talk about what we're here to talk about today, which is the idea that you, my glorious fierce fatty, have been brainwashed into hating your body and how to deprogram yourself. That's me making a noise of robots. Did you like it? So the way that you feel about your body, about yourself, about food, about everything has not come from a vacuum. It's been informed by the world. So if you were to have been born on a desert island, I always say, if you were on a desert island, but if you happened to have been born on a desert island and you had no interaction with other people, you would not have the same thoughts and feelings about yourself or your perceived attractiveness or what you should be eating or all that type of stuff. It's society, our society, that has made you think that your body is good or bad, or what you eat is good and bad, or any type of belief. And why this is important is because your perceived attractiveness is correlated with your perceived worthiness. And so that's something else that we have been taught by society, that the more attractive you are in the eye of society, the more worthy you are, which is obviously, we can all say, hello, ding, 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 I hear some bullshit going off there. I smell some bullshit. So as a society, we have decided what is generally considered attractive or not. But the thing is, it is not a fact that something is or isn't attractive. The saying, the eye is in the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But as a society, we have these general rules of, fat is bad, but there's going to always be subsets of people who don't adhere to that message. and can see attractiveness in all different types of people, and we all do, right? We all have different types of people that we're attracted to, but generally on a whole, society has this idea that fat is not attractive, that you should be eating certain foods, and that your body should be a certain way. But individually we can be like, I think that's bullshit, but it's still very hard to move away from what society is saying. So it's not a fact that your body, who you are as a person, is bad or unattractive. And what a fact is something that is 100% true 100% of the time. So if we were to survey the world population, I'd say, I don't know, 7.5 billion, I think it is, 8 billion, something like that. And they looked at your body. Would every single 7.5 billion people say, oh yeah, oh God, that body is disgusting? Or would there be some people who say, oh, hello, ding, 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 my dream person right there, can I get their number? Of course, there would people be like, oh my God, ding, 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 that is my dream person. But none of that matters, because it doesn't matter if other people find you attractive. It literally has nothing to do with your value as a human being. You are inherently valuable no matter what. So even if 7.5, 8 billion people, every single one of them was like, oh, no, that is what an ugly person looks like. Doesn't matter, because you're a human being, therefore you are worthy. So something that I learned, when I went to university, I studied illustration, and I was really a really arty person. And then when I went to university, my love of producing art was really crushed with my low self-esteem and the critiques of one certain professor who would just be like, this is just an embarrassment. How can you produce art like this? She was a real bitch. Anyway, so when I left university after studying illustration, I was like, oh my God, I'm so bad at it. And I wish I'd go back to Victoria then and be like, no, you're not. Anyway, the reason why I'm telling you that is something that I learned that while at university is, what is art? And you know, some people will go to an art gallery and they'll look and it'll be like, one splash of paint on a white background, or just a white circle on an off-white background, and people can say, like, how is that art? And then someone else will come along and see that same image and be like, holy fucking shit, that is genius, that is gorgeous, I must have it. And what makes something art, it doesn't matter if you like it. What makes something art is that it is remarkable in such a way. So when I say remarkable, that you remark upon it, that it provides some type of feeling, whether it be good, bad, indifference. But if you don't even notice it, then is it art? And so art can be anything. It doesn't have to be a painting or a sculpture or anything like that. Art can be anything. And even if you think that you're shit at art, like I used to think that I was shit at illustration, but actually I had many years of skills behind me. What I was producing was still art, even if that twat of a teacher was like, this is not very good. I don't like this. You should be doing this. It is still art. Because opinion on the goodness of the art doesn't matter. It still makes it art. So one genre of art that I love is the PreRaphaelites. They were around in the Victorian times, and the PreRaphaelites formed because they were opposed to the British Royal Academy. And the British Royal Academy had a really narrow view on what they considered was art. And it had to be, a certain type of beauty that would be depicted, and certain types of scenes. And then if not, they were very snobby and they would be like, no, you can't display that painting here. And the PreRaphaelites were like, fuck this noise, we're going to paint some really cool shit. And now if you look at the paintings, you're like, well, they kind of look old fashioned and they don't look really like edgy or anything, but they're so fucking cool. I love PreRaphaelite work. My favorite is The Awakening Conscience. I'll put a link to it below so you can see it, but it's so full of symbolism, and it's not necessarily the actual look of the painting, but what it represents. Look into what it means, and all the symbolism in it. It's gorgeous. Anyway, so you might know PreRaphaelite works like Ophelia. Like, have you ever seen that image where there's a woman floating in water, or Jesus coming to this door? There'll be Jesus coming to a door. You might have seen it in memes, and it'd be like, Jesus is knocking, and it'd be used in memes. But anyway, so you might be familiar with PreRaphaelites anyway. So the British Royal Academy were like, PreRaphaelites, pre-Schmafraelites, we don't like them. Their art is shit. But it wasn't. They had decided that they didn't like it for whatever reason, and they didn't class it as art. And that was an opinion. Now, that was like the mainstream opinion about what art should be like in those times. And the PreRaphaelites went against it and said, hey, no, we have a different opinion. And so it wasn't actually a fact that that is what art was meant to be. And so deciding that fat is unattractive, or you are unattractive, or your body is not okay, it's like saying one type or style of art is better than the other, and promoting that one single type of art or image as the only image that is good or worthy, which is bananas. Like, think of the thousands of years of art and creation that we have, and all of the different styles. And imagine if you were just like, no, pop art is the only art that is good art. Now that is what art should be. Pop art, that's the way to go. Why? No, right? It's cool if you like pop art, but it's not the only type that is good or bad or whatever, right? And so it's ridiculous to say that fat bodies are the only type of bodies that should be thin bodies are the only type of bodies that should be seen as attractive, because it's an opinion. And we, as a society, have got confused. We are like the British Royal Academy when we said, sticking our noses up at different types of art, saying, no, that's not what's classed as real art. And so when we see bodies that look different, marginalized bodies, and if we say, no, that body is not right, you need to lose weight, you need to do this, we're just being snobby assholes. We don't want to be snobby assholes, but obviously that's a very simplified version of what I'm talking about. Now, it's an opinion, is what I'm getting at. It is opinion. And we've decided as a society that thinness is better for whatever reason. And the thing is, around, so using art as an example too, well, you could say, well, PreRaphaelite art is the best art ever because it's so realistic. It is so rich in colour and rich in metaphor, and it educates the viewer. Whereas modern art, let's say, for example, Tracey Emin, British artist. Tracey Emin had a bed in a gallery with notches on the bedpost for how many lovers that she'd had. And all the newspapers went wild, being like, how dare she call this art? This is just nothing. And so some people were like, well, the PreRaphaelites took hundreds of hours to make this one painting, and Tracey Emin just carved some notches into a bedpost. And so there is a reason why people might say, okay, PreRaphaelite art is better than Tracey Emin or modern art, because there's reasons. But are those reasons valid? Not necessarily. And so there'd be reasons, for example, people saying, well, fat people are unhealthy. Well, fat people genetically would be less likely to be picked as a mate for whatever reason. But also, fat people genetically are the ones who survive famines, right? So, the reasons behind it doesn't really matter because it's all bullshit anyway. So another factor with this is consumerism and companies trying to sell us shit to fix our flawed bodies. So imagine, I've seen this quote a lot, imagine how many multi-billion-dollar industries and multi-million-dollar industries would be destroyed if one day we all woke up and said, do you know what? I think my body's pretty fucking good. I don't need to get that anti-aging cream or that whatever it is, wrap that goes around my belly to make it smaller, or diet plan or whatever it is. Multi-million and billion-dollar industries would overnight just be like, oh shit. And so it benefits companies to keep perpetuating the idea of what is beautiful and what you should look like. Because if you are in fear, then you will buy more shit. And it's okay if you want to buy shit, that's fine. I'm not against you buying stuff. Like, for example, even though I love myself, I still do things like wear lipstick just because I love it, or get my nails done. I love it. But underneath that, but do I? Would I be doing that if I lived on a desert island? Now I'm questioning myself, right? But I don't feel there's any negative behaviors, or things happening in my brain around that. I don't think, but I could be wrong. So it benefits consumerism if we hate ourselves. And so, to make sure that we keep buying stuff and to keep these companies afloat, because it's very lucrative, they will make up things that you need to start worrying about. So here's a couple of examples. So cellulite is made up. Yes, cellulite exists, as in it's on our bodies, but it didn't always used to be a thing. So I'm going to link this article by Kelsey Miller, and the title is Cellulite Isn't Real. This is how it was invented. So here's an excerpt from that. So cellulite is not real. The end. Oh, was that not clear? Allow me to elucidate. There is such a thing as subcutaneous fat and fibrous tissue beneath your skin. That's real. And indeed, on the majority of human bodies, there are areas on which skin appears dimply or bumpy. That exists too and always has, but until relatively recently, there was no word to define it because it was not a thing. Half a century ago, no one in this country had even heard of cellulite, let alone identified it as a problem to be gotten rid of. Today, we spend untold millions, if not billions, on anti-cellulite treatment, despite the glaring lack of evidence that any of them work, which makes perfect sense, of course, because you cannot treat a condition that doesn't actually exist. But that's the end of the quote. I'll link to the full article because it's very interesting. And Kelsey Miller is a fat positive rock star, the author of that. It makes sense. Okay, what? Women are rising up. Women are becoming more strong and standing up for themselves. And, if you read the article, this is what it's saying. And so what can we do to make those motherfuckers insecure, to make them spend their money on shit that doesn't matter? Okay, I'm going to make up a cellulite. Oh, we need to get rid of that. Oh, dear. Oh, no. And it's fucking bullshit. Most people have cellulite. I remember after I'd lost loads of weight, a dangerous amount of weight, and saying to my friend, I don't have cellulite anymore. And, I was probably dying or something, and just being so excited about that. And it just so fucking didn't matter. My old Victoria was getting on current Victoria's tits. Uh, so another one is Listerine. Did you know Listerine made up the idea of halitosis? I think it was the son of the owner or the son-in-law of the owner was like, okay, let's medicalize people having bad breath. And they literally created this word halitosis, which I think like hala is like Greek for halitosis is like Greek for bad, and then the breath. And so I'm going to link to this article as well. But in this article from this Smithsonian, it shows an ad from 1928 for Listerine, and the ad reads, "Halitosis makes you unpopular." And then the image of the ad is a woman sitting on her own, looking kind of dejected, and then a man dancing with this other woman. So the presumption is that he went up to her and said, "Would you like to dance?" or something. And then he was like, "Oh, bitch, your breath is nasty." Anyway, so the ad reads, "Halitosis makes you unpopular. No matter how charming you may be or how fond of you your friends are, you cannot expect them to put up with halitosis forever. They may be nice to you, but it is an effort." Oh, Listerine, you are shady. Oh my God. There's so many seeing those old ads are so funny. How like they're just like, "Bitch, you're nasty. Bitch, you're fucking ugly. You ain't gonna get no friends if you don't buy my product," you know? And seeing those, have you seen those ads as well where they say, "Oh, you're too skinny," and it's all about like, you need to plump up because the boys don't like skinny girls. And it wasn't plumping up to make them fat, but it was plumping up to give them like a bit of a hip and some curves or whatever. So you know, now we can look back and be like, oh my God, that's so funny that they would do that. And it's so blatant that Listerine would just straight up come after people and be like, "Your breath stinks. You better lose Listerine." Well, it's happening all the time now, right? It's like, you know, all of the new things, the new products that are coming out, and it's making it seem abnormal for you to be in your human body in the way that you are naturally. And of course, if you want to engage in these things and get beauty procedures done and buy into diets and all that, that's up to you, right? But is it distracting you from rising up? And is it hurting you by making you think that your body is not okay? Something that I've been toying with is the idea of eyelash extensions. And like, I'm like, oh, I like the idea of it, like, because I've never really done like false eyelashes. And I'm like, oh, I like the idea of it, but like, I think I like the look of it, but why do I want to do that? Is it because I'm trying to increase my worth as a human? Is it because it will be fun for me to play around with it? Why do we expect women's eyelashes to be longer? Like, what is going on there? Anyway, and so like anything like that, and I'm like, what is going on? Is it me to be just playing around and having fun with my body, or is it something else? And I haven't decided yet, so maybe I'll get eyelash extensions and just see if I like it. But I've noticed, like, me considering eyelash extensions, maybe I've looked at my eyelashes a few times and been like, well, those eyelashes aren't long enough. And how hurtful is that? I don't have an answer for that because, you know, it's still something that's continuing and I'm exploring. But it's distracting me in some way from stuff that might be more important. And it might be important, like I might have fun doing it, so I'm not ruling it out, but I'm just, you know, saying question these things. So these messages of who we should be as human beings are presented to us in many different ways. A massive way is through the media. through TV, films, magazines, books, comics, Reddit threads, they are everywhere, and they are taught, and then they are repeated by family and friends, and you've probably repeated these norms that, the way that human bodies should look like. I know I have plenty of times in my life, and they become seen as a fact that fat bodies are not good bodies, are not as attractive as smaller bodies. We just take it as a fact. It's a given. It's everywhere, obviously. It's a fact as much as it's a fact that the sun is going to rise tomorrow. It's a fact as much as the sky is blue, right? But it's not a fact. It is a belief. So let me read you a little excerpt from this New York Times article, which is talking about a study which was also cited in The Beauty Myth, which is a book by Naomi Wolf. And The Beauty Myth is there's loads of good stuff in it. It's quite dense. I don't know how I managed to read it. Maybe I read it on audiobook or something. I don't know. Anyway, I read it. And I just remembered this study. Now, this study is not perfect. There's lots of flaws around it, but it's just, I want to illustrate something. So this is an excerpt from the New York Times article. I will link to it below as well. So here we go. The title of the article is Study Finds TV Alters Fiji Girls' View of Their Body. You've gained weight is a traditional compliment in Fiji, anthropologists say. This article was written 20 years ago, by the way. So there might be some things in there which have changed, or culturally have changed. Just FYI. Okay, so you've gained weight is a traditional compliment in Fiji, anthropologists say. In accordance with traditional culture in the South Pacific nation, dinner guests are expected to eat as much as possible. A robust, nicely rounded body is the norm for men and women. Skinny legs is a major insult, and going thin, the Fijian term for losing a noticeable amount of weight, is considered a worrisome condition. But all that may be changing now that Heather Locklear has arrived. That gives away the date. Heather Locklear. I'm like, who is she? Just a few years ago, after the introduction of television to a province on Fiji's main island, Vita Levu, eating disorders, once virtually unheard of there, are on the rise among girls, according to a study presented yesterday at the American Psychiatric Association meeting in Washington. Young girls dream of looking not like their mothers or aunts, but like the slender stars of Melrose Place and Beverly Hills 90210. I'm very heavy, one Fijian adolescent lamented during an interview with researchers led by Dr. Anne E. Becker, Director of Research at the Harvard Eating Disorders Center of Harvard Medical School, who investigated shifts in body image and eating practices in Fiji over a 3-year period. The Fijian girl said her friends also tell her that she's too fat. And sometimes I'm depressed because I always want to lose weight. Epidemiological studies have shown that eating disorders are more prevalent in industrialized countries, suggesting that cultural factors play a role. But few studies have examined the effects of long-term cultural shifts on disordered eating in traditional societies. Dr. Becker and her colleagues surveyed 63 Fijian secondary school girls whose average age was 17. The work began in 1995, 1 month after satellites began beaming television signals to the region. In 1998, the researchers surveyed another group of 65 girls from the same schools who were matched in age, weight, or other characteristics with the subjects in the earlier group. 15% in the 1998 survey reported that they had induced vomiting to control their weight. The researchers said, compared with 3% in the 1995 survey. And 29% scored highly on a test of eating disorder risk, compared with 13% 3 years before. Girls who said they watched television 3 or more nights a week in 1998 were 50% more likely to describe themselves as too big or fat, and 30% more likely to diet than girls who watched television less frequently. Before 1995, Dr. Becker said there was little talk of dieting in Fiji. The idea of calories were very foreign to them. But in the 1998 survey, 69% said that at some time they had been on a diet. In fact, preliminary data suggests that more teenage girls in Fiji diet than their American counterparts. So I'll link the whole article below, that New York Times article. So I know we're not talking about eating disorders here, but the power of the media. So I wanted to share that as an illustration to show the power of the media and the power of these messages that you need to be thin, white, young, able-bodied, and all of these other things that we've decided we need to be as humans. So media informs us, and those messages are then ingrained in our brains as fact. They are shared through conversations, through our own heads, our own minds telling us that this is fact, and it just becomes cemented in our brains. So according to eMarketer, in 2019, we spent on average 12 hours and 9 minutes a day consuming media. And so the average adult is awake for 15 hours and 39 minutes, meaning, I did the maths, look at me, I'm so smart, 60% of our day is consumed with our day is used by consuming media. I love consuming media, so this is no knock on how much media we consume. Like I'm like, if I need to do a wee, bring my phone. If I need to do a poo, definitely bring my phone. Brushing my teeth, I'm watching something, getting ready in the morning, I'm listening to a podcast, like falling asleep, I'm listening to a podcast. So no shit on the amount of media that we consume. But what is the media that you are consuming? Is the media you're consuming supporting fat positivity, or is it supporting that fat bodies are bad? And it doesn't have to be aggressively fat phobic. It can just be a show with lots of straight-sized people. That is informing you what a body should be like. Even if the straight-sized people are like, oh, we love fat people, you're still being conditioned to know what a body should look like. So again, media is telling us what we should look like. And, it's not as simple as it's just the media. Lots of different things are going on at play here. But the media and what we're consuming and what's going into our brains is such a massive part of it. And it's presenting the idea that fat is bad and presenting it as a fact. And remember, a fact is something that's 100% true 100% of the time, when in fact the idea that fat is bad is a belief. So let's look at beliefs. What makes up a belief? Your belief, any belief that you have, is different for everyone. And so I like to think of beliefs in our brain as each belief is like a suitcase. And inside each belief suitcase, we have different things that make up that belief. So if you believe that being fat is bad and you open that suitcase, it's probably going to be chock-a-block filled with that time that your mum said that you would look better if you're thin, that show you watch with a kid where they're making fun of the fat person, that news article that you read, that interaction with your partner when you were a teenager and they said your belly was too big. It's going to be filled with loads of different incidences and evidence to support that belief. Now, if you currently believe that your body is not good, or fat is bad, or fat is unhealthy, or whatever it is that you believe, you have got this suitcase that's living in your brain, filled with different things to support that belief. Evidence. The evidence might be very faulty, but it's still filled, and your suitcase, which is the belief, you're lugging it around with you, and it's not serving you. And what is exactly inside there, I don't know. I can't tell you what's in your suitcase because it's your personal experience, right? And everyone's suitcase is different for fat is bad, if you even have that suitcase. And everyone has all these different ideas and beliefs, which all have evidence, something in the suitcase to go behind it. Now, so you can have a belief, which is, it's not really that deep. Like, so let's just make up a belief. If you eat grass, then it will make your hair turn green. So you just saw this on you saw a scientific article written, if you eat grass, your hair will turn green. Now, that belief, the suitcase of that belief, is probably just filled with that one article, that one scientific thing. And so if someone else comes along and they offer you some counter evidence, it'll be really easy to take that one article out and say, oh, actually looking at this, I can see this is totally bogus. I no longer believe that eating grass is going to make my hair green. But when it comes to believing that fat bodies are okay, or your body is okay, you'll open that suitcase and it's going to be like fucking Pandora's box in there. And so you do something like listen to this podcast or look at some fat bodies on the internet, and it's just making a tiny dent on that suitcase because it's just absolutely filled with shit. So you need to go into that suitcase and you need to know what is in there. You might not know exactly, but you can be a detective and go through each item in there. Some things are going to stand out, and some things are going to be in there hidden for a long time, and then something is going to make them reveal them to you after years of working on this stuff. So my suitcase of, the belief that fat is bad, I think is pretty much empty, but something could happen. For example, a global pandemic, something traumatic could happen where it reveals another belief that I have, a fatphobic belief that I have. And I'm like, oh shit, that suitcase wasn't actually empty after all. Let's look at this belief. Is it true? Do I want to keep it in the suitcase? Do I want to throw it out? Do I want to add something to my other suitcase, which is my body is okay, and another suitcase, my fat bodies are okay? Do I want to add more evidence there? So that's what you need to do, is you need to get another suitcase, which is my body is okay, or fat bodies are okay, whatever it is. And you need to start filling that up. The more you fill that up with evidence, with information, with images, with good, juicy, fierce, fatty stuff, the more you'll be taking out of that fat negative suitcase. And it might take years to go through this suitcase. It might be really hard. Like, there might be some things in there which will be light as a feather to remove. And there might be other things which is like one of those, in old cartoons, like the 1,000-pound weight thing. That's a ton, is it? Is it a ton? 1,000 pounds? I don't know, let's say it's a ton. And it will take years to shift it, and you might only be able to pull it, one little inch at a go. But that is what I like to see beliefs as. Like, you just don't believe something just because, there's evidence supporting it, right? And if the evidence is flimsy, it's easy to change your mind. But because you are constantly being told that it's not okay to be fat, it's a constant battle with keep trying to get that suitcase empty and it constantly being filled up again. So if you're spending 12 hours a day consuming media, I want you to be very, very, very critical about what you are viewing. And the way to know if something is good or bad for you is to understand how you feel during and after, and even before. So, for example, there's this TV show in the UK called Love Island. What it is loads of conventionally attractive people go to an island, I think. Anyway, there are people, muscly people and thin women walking around in bikinis, and they pair off together. And it's on every single night for 6 weeks in the UK over the summer, I think. And the UK go bananas for it, and they love it. And so during the summer, I was in the UK for a little bit. People were like, "Oh my God, Love Island's on, come and see it." And so I was like, well, theoretically, I think this is going to be bad for me. So already I was like, this is going to be bad, because I kind of knew the premise that there was lots of traditionally attractive people in the show. And so I sat down to watch it, and I sat for maybe 10 minutes, and I was like, nope, that's it. Done. And then nothing had happened. Like, they weren't like, yo, fat people suck. Nothing like that happened. Just the presence of all of those traditionally attractive bodies, which are not a true representation of the human body, the human population as a whole. So if it was, there'd be fat people on there, there'd be all sorts of different types of people on there. And that would be good to see, because then you'd see fat people falling in love, and fat people having fun, and, fat people as people. And so I didn't watch it again. And it kind of stuck in my mind for a couple of days after that. And I was a little bit critical, because it was summer and I was in a bikini, a little bit critical of my body. When I say a little bit, like very slightly, because I only had watched it for a few minutes. But I had noticed that it had an effect. And I knew I would love that show. Like, as a guilty pleasure. I know I would love it. And I would love being able to talk to other people and be like, oh my God, did you see what Beth did? Oh my God, she got drunk and then sucked off that guy. And I would love that shit. I would love it. But I have to draw a line and sacrifice the entertainment of it, because I know it will affect my mental health. So, do you have guilty pleasures? Then maybe cut them out. Do you have things like you'll start to notice things that are just, they seem okay on the surface. Like, someone's sharing nice recipes, but there might just be a little bit of judgment in there. And you'll start to notice, okay, yeah, that's not good for me. So how does what you're consuming make you feel? Does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel like, yes, fuck yeah, I want to go out and be my fucking fabulous self, whatever that is? Or does it make you want to hide and not be yourself and, be sad? Then ding, 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 you need to get rid of that shit. So basically, in a nutshell, you've been brainwashed with millions upon millions of messages that you've received throughout your whole life, from the moment you could have a conversation, from the moment you could understand other humans. You have been told what you should look like and what is good and what is bad. That will continue throughout your life. We cannot stop those messages accidentally seeping into our brains. But what you need to do is you need to go on the aggressive and reprogram your brain so that you are getting all of those positive messages in there. It is crucial. So if you have in the last year had 1 million messages saying that fat is bad, you need to get 1,000,001 messages in your brain that says it's okay to be fat for you to have an effect. And so you have to take action. You can't just hope that, you'll just one day wake up and decide, oh, my body's okay, without actually doing anything. You have to protect yourself. You have to put your mental health first to have an effect on how you're feeling about your fat body. So talking about podcasts, my thing that I want to share with you today is the podcasts that I am really loving. And when I say talking about podcasts, talking about media, I fall asleep every single night listening to a podcast. I wish that I had the desire to fall asleep listening to, like, I don't know, positive affirmations or, calm music or things like that. But what really calms me is like murder podcasts and what is it, like crime podcasts and things like this. So here are some of my favorite currently. So if you're that type of person, make sure you listen to these. So these are less crimes, these are more mystery things. So my first one is Swindled, and so it's all about different con artists, and the person who hosts it is left leaning, so yay. If you look at the reviews for Swindled, obviously the person doing the podcast, it's an anonymous host, didn't state their political views, and then maybe halfway through people listening to it, he started saying things that aligned him with being a liberal, and the reviews, like from Trump supporters, are like, oh, this guy is so political and blah blah blah, he's ruined it with his political bullshit. And I was like, ooh, what is this political bullshit? And I was like, oh yeah, he's liberal, so yay. The next one I like, I've just started this one, but I'm really enjoying it. It's from the BBC, and it's called The Missing Crypto Queen. So there's this woman, this is the synopsis, who started a rival to the Bitcoin, and it's called the OneCoin. And it was basically a pyramid scheme, and she just took all the money and ran, and millions of dollars. And people still don't know what's going on. And so you learn about that. That's just the synopsis. And so this podcast series is looking into that. Next one I like, Con Artists, same kind of thing. I'm really into con artists at the moment. Different scam swindlers throughout the time. The Score, Bank Robber Diaries. So The Score, Bank Robber Diaries, is this guy who went to prison for robbing loads of banks. He is now a reformed criminal. He goes through very detailed about how he would rob banks, what he would do with the money, how he got caught, the experience, all of that experiences, how he then turned his life around. Really interesting. One thing he says in it, he's a very charismatic guy. One thing he says is that money, so he would steal loads of money, obviously, and he'd hide it under his bed. And he says that money stinks of shit. Like big piles of money smells like shit. Because he was sat in his bed and he was like, what the fuck is that smell? And he realized it was the money. How fucking gross is that? So, because money, like, I don't know, people are fucking going around wiping their bum and then touching money, or using money to wipe their bum or whatever. Oh man, people are disgusting. Why are people so disgusting? And finally, one of my all-time favorites. I don't listen to this falling asleep because it's so good I don't ever want to miss any of it. Not that I miss any of the others, I always just rewind where I fell asleep to. Is All Killer No Filler. So it's talking about serial killers, but it's two British comedians. It's really funny. They're very British, but they have got a large North American audience, and they always explain like the British things that they're saying. They're really funny, and they've got a really good Facebook group too. Like lots of cool people, like they're fat positive and all that type of stuff. Not 100% fat positive, because one of the hosts lost weight, but she doesn't talk about losing weight as if it's a good or bad thing. So anyway, so I'm going to say it's fat positive. Yeah, so reminder to leave me a review, even if you don't want my book. Why wouldn't you? Then leave me a review. It's good fatty karma points. I would so appreciate it. And the reason why it's important is because the more reviews, the more people will listen, the more the fat positive message will get out there. And this is fat positive media, and fat positive media changes the lives of people who need to hear fat positive stuff, which is everyone. Everyone needs to hear fat positive stuff. And of course, not everyone has to hear it from me because, I'm not the queen of fat positivity, the queen of the fat positive internet or anything. I'm just one voice, but it's important to get fat voices out there. Okay, well, thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you for pressing play, and look out for that special COVID Facebook Live. Gonna turn it into a podcast thingamajig. Yeah, and I'll see you on the next episode. Goodbye, my queen.